Do you know you are my sunshine? She asked so sweet and tenderly. Do you know you are my sunshine?
Hey folks, it's Ron with On Fire Concerts, and we've got a very special interview today with a very special gentleman. He's a true icon in country music and across all music fields. He's a member of the 9-time CMA Vocal Group of the Year, member Country Music Hall of Fame, Gospel Hall of Fame, 3-time Grammy winner, and one of those was for a rock and roll Grammy. But Mr. Don Reid, Statler Brothers, thank you, Don, for being with us.
Thank you, Ron, for inviting me, and I'm glad to be here. And such nice things you've already said. I appreciate all that.
You know, I was reading the book. I was telling Langdon earlier that, you know, I grew up on the Statler Brothers, and you think you know all there are to know about them, and you think, well, I didn't know that, and but the formatting of the book and the way you lay it out, and folks, the book we're talking about is the Statler Brothers An Anthology by Don. The formatting of that is great. Can you tell the folks a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, my sons, Dee and Langdon, had encouraged me to write this book and to talk about the music. And I thought, well, I don't know if I have enough to say about it. So what I decided to do was write about every song that we ever recorded, every album song, every single, and kind of tell the story behind it. If we wrote it, I kind of told about why we wrote it, how we chose to sing the songs, why we chose to sing some of the older songs, the arrangements, and everything from why right down to how we did it when we got into studios. And it became sort of it became something bigger than I was expecting to tackle, but then I was glad I did after it was all done.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking when I first found out about the book, and so it said he talks about every song they ever recorded. I thought, how can you do that in one book?
Yeah.
I mean, because you think, what, 45 albums, and
yeah,
just an average of 10 songs an album back in the day. That's a lot of songs. And I mean, it's just an amazing thing. And the Statler Brothers were together as the Statler Brothers for 38 years or something like that. And then before that, though, y'all were together back to the Four-Star Quartet and the Kings.
Yeah. And we actually grew up together. Before we ever sang together, we were kids, playing softball and doing all this kind of stuff. Went to church together and all of that. So we've known each other all of our lives. And then we found out we wanted to sing, and that's when that started as kids. So yeah, it's been a lifetime of making those memories.
Right. I mean, 45 years in the same group, and two of you being brothers, you think, my brothers and I, we love each other, but for 45 years on the road together, I don't know if I could do that or not,
Well, it will either bring you closer or you'll kill each other.
One another,
Yeah.
You stated in your book, and you mentioned earlier that your sons, Langdon and Debo, wanted you to write this.
Mm-hmm.
From the time, I guess, that they asked you about it or throw the idea out at you to the completion of it, how long did that take?
It was about a 2-year period, Ron. And that's not meaning I sat here every day and worked on it for 2 years, but off and on, I would take a little break and step back from it for a few weeks, and I'd go back and write a chapter or two. And to keep it fresh, I didn't overwork it. So I took my time and put together, and it was an overall picture of about 2 years.
You talk in the book that, something that I found amazing in the Nashville and the music industry in general. And back then, especially, as it's a lot different then than now. Y'all were, when you actually went to work for Johnny Cash, it was like a month, less than a month. I think you said 27 days, and y'all were at Columbia Studio with a record deal. You know,
I know it. It's hard to believe in today's times when you tell that story, but that's how it happened then. Yeah.
and it was like a 3 record shot or 3 release deal or something. And your last one, I think, was Flowers on the Wall.
That's right. If it hadn't have been, there would have been no Statler Brothers. But we were in the studio. We had 3 chances to do it. And over a period of, I don't know, 9, 10 months, we got these 3 chances. The first 2 bombed. And the third opportunity we got was on a Johnny Cash session while he went out to get something to eat. So he took a break. He went and get something to eat, left us and all the pickers sitting in the studio. And then the producer comes in and says, well, y'all got 3 chances. If you want to do your third one, you got till John gets back from lunch. And that's when we cut Flowers on the Wall.
And then that was the turn, of course, that made the Statler Brothers, you know. And, you know, there's just so much, I guess, little humor facts you put in the book and tell about that. You were in the room when, I guess it was Carl Perkins wrote Daddy Sing Bass and y'all were going to record it.
Yeah, we thought we were. That was our plans. And then John heard Carl sing it and he said, I want to do that. And so the next call we got was John saying, come to Nashville and record this song with me. And when we got there, it was the song we were expecting to record. But that's how it is in the music business.
Right, and the same thing happened with Chris Tofferson and me and Bobby McGee. You were telling about, you know, it's amazing. You know, I did not realize. I guess it was in my notes here. I did not realize it was 1982. Whatever that y'all recorded, the song, whatever, was it first country music video?
Yeah, it was brand new then, and they told us when we did it what they had to explain to us what they were going to use it for, and because you know this is something that hadn't been done before, so we cut that one, and then you know they started catching on then, and of course those kind of video shows were popping up all over the country.
Right, and when the video was recorded, being that it was the first one, or the concept. Did you have any idea what videos were going to do in the future, or how big they would actually become? Because that was amazing. You know,
we had no idea how they were going to get this out to the people, how the people were going to see them, how this would tie in with a record. All of that was like foreign to us, and basically to the industry because it was new and it was just being experimental.
Right, and it's that had to be. But that's an honor just. Know that the Statler Brothers did the first video. That was amazing. And then I think we're jumping forward, but like 1991, you started y'all's TV show.
Yeah.
And that ran for 7 years or so, 8 years. And I don't believe y'all slowed down on your touring schedule during that time.
You know, we were trying to do a lot, and we were touring, we were recording, we were doing television. It was a busy time. I look back on the 90s as probably our busiest decade because we didn't have a lot of off schedule. Usually we always planned our time off, we planned our vacations off, and during that period it was just working constantly, and that's probably what kind of moved us closer to retirement by 2002. I think we retired.
It's I just I can't imagine because doing the TV schedule, I know a little bit about that, not a whole lot of the aspect of it, but I've done some filming. That's a job by itself. That's a full time. You just don't go in and record a show it's done. And the Statlers, everything the Statler Brothers ever did, it was flawless. It wasn't no that anybody's seen, and it's just I couldn't imagine with the full touring schedule and trying to do a TV show. That was just
my brother and Harold and I wrote every show, so we'd start with that. Then we produced the show, the Statlers did. And then we would be there to film it with our guests and ourselves. So we were involved in every aspect of the TV show. It didn't like we just walked in and did a song or two and they told
Right.
us where to start. We were in the very, we were planning all of that, helping to plan all that ourselves.
Y'all
So
went
we were involved, and
start
that's
to
what was so
finish.
time to me.
Right. And it's just amazing that the process of it and just the time it took to do that. And, I realized, and I was going to bring this up later, but this would be a good point to throw in there now, I think. In the book, or not, I don't know, I read an article that you had done sometime or another, and it may have been mentioned in the book, but anyway, don't think so. But it said that you had stated that you actually enjoy the music of the Statler Brothers more now than you did when you were on the road because you was
Yeah.
so busy.
And when I wrote this book, I sat down here at my desk and I listened to every song, and then I would write about it. So I was hearing all of these songs, and I was hearing a lot of them that I hadn't heard in 25, 30 years. And I was now hearing them with a different ear, because before you're hearing it commercially, you're hearing it, let's get this out, and then we're working on the next album before the ink gets dry on this one.
Right.
And I was able to sit back and listen to it, and I was hearing things that I hadn't heard before, and I was enjoying things that I'd never enjoyed before. So it was really an eye-opening experience for me as to who the Statler Brothers were musically these many years later.
Well, there's a gentleman that you mentioned in your book that is an amazing gentleman in my book as well. But Jerry Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I produced a lot. Well, I think you said 22 years.
Yeah.
For them.
We were together alone, still best of friends. We talk to each other all the time on the phone to this day. And he was a very important part of the Statler Brothers. I mean, he gave us commercial freedom. He let us do what we wanted to do, and he put his polish on it when we got through with it. And the book is dedicated to Jerry.
There's just in the recording business, there's no telling the number of albums that he's influenced.
Oh, yeah.
It's an amazing. I found it. My little day-to-day schedule, much less the Statler Brothers' day-to-day schedule, that you had time to write, and I guess the presence of mind to say, I'm going to take notes of all this.
Yeah.
While I'm doing it,
I did. I kept notebooks. I kept calendar books. I kept all kinds of each day, and each night I'd get on the bus or we travel or in a hotel room, and I'd jot down all these little notes, what we did that day, right down to our concert shows, what we wore, what comedy routines we did, what songs we sang. And I kept this every day all of those years. And it's certainly, I didn't know why. I had no idea why I was doing this, but the Lord knew, and he allowed me to do this, and I suppose encouraged me to do this, and then because of the book.
Well, it's just amazing that someone said, and I read, in the book you mentioned that you would hope that more artists would do the similar things.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's kind of my challenge to all the other artists, to do this for your fans. Write down, and if you can remember all these things, or as much as you can remember, of why you did things and how you did things. And I think it'd be just wonderful. I wish people before me had done it, because there's plenty of those I'd like to read myself who I'm fans of.
I had the Statler Brothers, there again, growing up on the Statler Brothers. And I thought, when I asked you about the interview originally, and you mentioned you had this book coming out, I had just got done interviewing Jimmy Fortune.
Yeah.
And Jimmy, I try to keep these interviews because I don't want to tie the artist up, and you try to keep them minimum 20, 30 minutes at most or something. And of course, Jimmy we talked an hour, and but Jimmy's a great guy, and he was just talking about how the Statler Brothers, how he said, when he came in and even filled in temporary before becoming permanent, he said, it was like I belonged there. It was like they made you feel like you belonged. You know?
He did belong there. He was part of us from day one. He was a brother from day one. And I just can't speak enough about Jimmy, of what I think of him, of his heart, of his singing, of his talent. I just love the guy. And we're still very close.
He's just an amazing gentleman, and been you know, I've been blessed to know him and work with him, and he's just
Absolutely.
a great guy. But he, you know, you stated in the book that when you started writing this, it was you and Harold going to write it together, and then Harold unfortunately got sick.
Yeah,
But you still took each chapter to him when you got done.
exactly. He read every chapter as I wrote it, and I got his stamp of approval, and we would talk about it, and he would offer things. But yeah, I wish that he had been well and good enough of health to where we could have written it together. We did write one other book together, Random Memories, years ago, about the Statler brothers. And I wish we could have done this, but it wasn't meant to be. And he didn't live to see the book published, but he did know it was on its way, and he had read every word.
And you know, I heard a story that you had told, and you, I believe the article I was reading, and I don't even remember now where it was, Variety or somewhere, but you were talking about. You said, let me tell you a story about Harold that has no punchline, but it was about the Psalms 119.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was amazing to me. I mean, I just, you know.
I wrote that after he passed away, and yeah, it was a childhood story that he and I had shared, and it was a blog that I write on my donreid.net, and it was just a heartfelt story that I felt like, well, nobody else did know about that. It was just kind of a thing that we had to ourselves. Yeah.
You know, of all the people, I mean, you know, Harold to me, and just saying this, Harold was, of course, he was as funny as he could be.
Oh yeah.
And I remember I grew up in Southern gospel music, and that's what I started out as a promoter in.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been blessed to work with everyone basically, and over the years. And you know, Harold, I've seen him and JD Summers on stage together, you know, cutting up, and that just yeah. But yeah, I remember back. I can't remember the year now, but it's been, you know, a few years back. Of course, the Cathedral's final farewell.
Oh yeah.
That said more about Harold, I think, than when George Young said what he said about Harold calling him and offering him a kidney.
Yeah.
I thought, you know, that just.
And he did that, and he did that from his heart. And then to think that that is the disease that also got Harold, the same one that got George.
And that just tells you the person Harold was, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, it just, you know, and those two together, I mean, him and George was, you know, they were.
We loved George, and they were the two of them were great together. And throw JD in there, and it was quite a sight.
It was. Now, you know, I remember him, but I wasn't as familiar with Lester Roadhog Moran and the Cadillac Cowboys. That is just. I went back and watched some videos.
Yeah.
On the Ralph Emery show and.
Oh yeah.
And I was talking to Kit Emery a while back on Facebook. He was talking about Ralph and how much he loved the Statler Brothers. And I was telling him, we were talking about this book. And but I got to watching some of those videos, and it's just so funny, you know.
Well, Ralph, of course, had a TV show. This was back when we were talking the 70s.
Yeah.
And he had a TV show. And every time we go do the TV show, he would say, and we want Lester and the boys to do it too. Well, which required a clothes change completely. Had to change clothes and do the whole comedy. And this voice, this Roadhog voice, for those who are familiar with it, really tore Harold's throat up the way he had to talk like a Roadhog. So once he had done the comedy routine, then he couldn't sing for a while because he had to get his voice back in shape. So it was always a challenge whenever we just agreed to do that. Yeah.
It just, I mean, it was, and I believe one of them you had Tammy Wynette in the audience or somewhere, Roy
Mm-hmm.
Clark. It was so funny. And did I read, understand correctly that there was actually and I wouldn't know this, but Lester Roadhog album?
Oh, yes, it was.
I
Live at the
thought,
Johnny
yeah,
Brown High School. Yeah,
yeah, I was thinking something. And
the whole album.
that was, but that was so funny. I thought, when you're growing up, and like I said, the Statler Brothers were a group that I believe, and I honestly think that it didn't matter what kind of music you liked. Um, Somebody could come up to anybody on the street and say, "Name me the Statler Brothers,"
Mm.
and it'd be Harold, Phil, Don, Lou, or Harold, Phil, Don, and Jimmy.
Yeah.
It was just everybody knew that. And that's got to
Well,
be. I mean, that says it all.
we were blessed. We were blessed with some of the best fans in the world, and still are. They're still with us, and we hear from them all the time through social media, through the mail, everywhere. And we're so honored that they loved us the way they did, and we in return send that love back to them. And they kept us viable and out there for nearly 40 years in the business, and that's a lot, and we appreciated every minute of it.
Well, I mean, and it's the thing. Your last album that you recorded was titled "Amen." If I'm,
Yeah.
And that was just, I thought, like you said in the book, that was just justifiable. That was a great title for your last album.
Well, it was, and we felt at the time that it would be our last album. We talked about doing others later after we retired, just never did develop. But yeah, that was kind of a way of putting the final stamp on the career. Mm-hmm.
And the folks, just so you know, one more time, this book is Statler Brothers An Anthology by Don Reid. Where can they get that, on donreid.com or?
They can, donreid.net or statlerbrothers.net, .com, excuse me, Statler Brothers. Or you can get it from Amazon or Books and maybe wherever you want to get it. But you get it through the statlerbrothers.com, and I'll autograph all the books that come through there.
And folks, it's a great book. It's an amazing format, I think, and just, I mean, if somebody had told me that one of the Statler Brothers were going to write a book about every song they ever recorded, I thought, there's no way you can do that. That's got to be a set, not a book, But it's amazing,
When I told Bill Anderson that, he said, "I can't even remember what I had for breakfast this morning." And you're going to remember every song that you wrote. Yeah. So, but I appreciate your sentiments on it, Ron. I thank you for liking it as much as you do. And I thank you for saying this to all these many people that's watching. It's very kind.
We have a good following on these things, and people love it. And when I mentioned to a couple of people the other day that I haven't posted or said anything that we're going to be interviewing you today, I just said we got a surprise special. And of course, but when I know I'm a country music lover, diehard old country, and I know anyone that loves country music, period, no matter old, new, whatever, this is a book they got to read, because it tells more than just the songs. It's a little bit about the industry. It's a little bit of humor, and it's about the song and the history,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of history there for the times, for what country music was in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. I think it's something there that a little something for everybody to enjoy.
It is. And again, Don, we thank you so very much for taking your time today to do this with us, and for Langdon Debo helping set it up. And we just appreciate it so much. And folks, go out there to donreid.net or your local bookstores. Get the Statler Brothers An Anthology. You're going to love this book.
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate it very much. Have a wonderful day, and I hope we do this again.
Thank you, Don. And we